Hi everyone, today I am here working with Roy, who is a Grand Prix Dressage horse, and he is a very sensitive soul. He gets quite anxious, spooky. Does he spook? Yeah. And kind of just has a hard time containing and controlling his emotions. So what we're going to do today is work through the groundwork program, see where we get to. I'm going to kind of talk as I go, and I may do some voiceover later to fill in the gaps as well, depending on how much of my attention and focus and how engaged I have to be. But anyway, we'll get started, and I'm just going to see where he's at and observe what's going on, and then make a plan for how to approach everything to get him to a place. My ultimate goal is that he learns to be in a calm state of mind, that he's not going into those reactive places where he feels like he has to either go into the flight mode or the fight mode or the freeze mode. So I want to see that he's relaxed, he's in rhythm, and he is mentally present, focused and calm. So let's get to work. So we're going to start off just in some basic circling work. And what I want to do here is send his shoulders out to the side. Good boy. And we're just going to observe, see what's going on when he's going around me here. So I can see that he's a little bit tense. He is not very focused. We're losing rhythm. Good boy. There you go. So here, I just want to get him to a point where he feels like he can just walk out of here, that he doesn't have to go into that flight mode. So I'm going to use our lateral movements, yielding his hindquarters across and yielding his shoulders across, and being careful that I don't get hurt and in the way. Good boy. And that you kind of have to judge with each horse as well as to where you place yourself. Depending on the horse might be quite bold with its shoulders, or it might be quite bold with its hindquarters. So you've got to kind of put yourself in a position where you're going to stay out of the way of those parts, but also not moving your feet to get out of their way, because otherwise you start to get a horse that learns that they can move your feet. Good boy. So now that he's just walking out of there, I'm just going to leave him alone. So this is the calm space that I want him to find. And if I take the pressure off when he's in this state of mind, getting closer and closer to being relaxed and in rhythm, then he'll start to find this more often. And as soon as he gets tense and anxious or wants to speed off again, we're going to go back to doing those changes of direction. Good boy. Good man. So what we're doing is we're creating pathways in the brain that help the horse to be responsive and feel like they don't need to be fighting for their life, I guess. Because they are prey animals, their natural instinct is to go into freeze, flight or fight, whatever they need to be able to survive. So by setting them up in situations, say like with the flag, or whatever the stimulus is that we're using, we can create a scenario that could put them into that survival state of mind, but we're going to teach them that they don't have to. So, and once we've created those pathways in the brain, we could be out at a show where there's a big crowd or loudspeakers or fill in jumps, whatever it might be, or maybe you're just riding out on the farm and there's some baleage flapping around. When we've created those pathways in the brain, the horse is able to go to that responsive state of mind rather than the reactive state. So they still may get a little fright if it's something that they feel is threatening, but if you've created those tools and those pathways, then it's going to be a lot easier to get them back to being relaxed, in rhythm, calm and focused. Okay, so let's do some more changes of direction. So what we're doing when we're doing the changes of direction, I'm putting some bend right the way through his body. I'm getting him to move laterally. He's stepping up and under his body and bending through his rib cage. And why this works as a calming tool or exercise is because the horse doesn't generally put itself in those nice, lovely, soft positions unless they are relaxed. So we can use that position to kind of manipulate the mind into thinking that they are relaxed. Good boy. So let's yield those hindquarters across again. Bring the shoulders on across. So it's not perfect and he's still wanting to crowd me a little bit, and he's looking to the outside and he's not super focused, and he's still quite fearful of me as well in the situation. So but we're aiming for 1% better, and by the end of all of our training, then hopefully we've got our Grand Prix version of our groundwork and our mental skills. But for now, we're kind of just in the training stages. Good boy. Good boy. Really? Good boy. Good boy. I know. Good boy. So because I've got him to a place where he can just keep his feet still, I'm going to just let him sit here for a little while and be relaxed and realize that it's not a bad thing to just stand still. Good boy. What I don't want to do though is force him to be standing still, because if I force him to stand still, then I'm just teaching him a trick, and he might be physically standing still, but his mind is going to be everywhere else. So my goal is to get him mentally and physically here and able to stand still. Good boy. And because what happens is, if we've just taught it as a trick, then by the time you get to going to a show, and you might have to halt them, you might have taught the trick at home when they're in an ideal situation, but in a heightened environment, energy-wise, that kind of goes out the window because their mind isn't relaxed, their mind isn't present, and they're unable to perform the task. What a good boy. Okay. Good boy. So for now I'm just going to do some transitions from go to stop. And of course my goal is to just have him so that he can walk out of here. But for right now, he feels like he kind of is tuning out my subtle cue of asking him to go. And then he goes into full flight. So the more I get him aware and focused and engaged in our conversation, the less I'm going to see him go from nothing to everything. And we'll get far better transitions. Good boy. And once I develop a little bit of a conversation with him and some common language, then I'm going to start introducing the flag and doing some acceptance work. Good boy. That's a lot better. So I just slowed down my ask a little bit then, and for each time he gave me the slightest try towards going, I released the pressure and then asked again. Good boy. So step and slide, lift up, yield those hindquarters away. I'm going to back him up out of my space. Good boy. And again. Good boy. Awesome. So I tend to just stick to one direction to start with when I'm teaching, slowing things down a little bit and teaching the go button. And then once we've got it pretty decent on this side, then I'm going to switch over to the other side. So we can see he is becoming more focused and more relaxed. He's still looking to the outside a little bit, but as we work on things, he'll start to become more engaged and involved in our conversation rather than looking around for things that could possibly be scary or just getting unfocused and tuning out. Okay, so step and slide, lift up, that's far better. So that time we saw him actually soften through his body. He was soft through his pole, his jaw, his neck, his rib cage, and stepping his hindquarters up and under. And what I liked is that he stayed free and forward through that inside front leg as well, instead of getting it stuck and planting, which shows tension in those shoulders. Good boy. Aha, that's a lot better. And now I'm starting to see that head is lowering. I want to keep him out of my space though. He's got to stay out of my bubble. The head is lowering. He's starting to get a softer eye. I'm not getting that big snorting. I'm seeing his muscles starting to soften as well. Good boy. Much better. Okay, so let's step and slide, come to a halt. Oh, that was my fault there. Set you up to fail on that one, didn't I, bud? Good man. Good boy. And so as we start to build this conversation of questions that I can ask him, the more engaged he'll become, because each time he gets unfocused, I can ask him a gentle question to bring his focus back to me. So I've got it, especially for a horse that has got a busy mind or is super sensitive, I have to make my conversation engaging enough to keep his focus and to keep him present with me. But if I'm super boring, and maybe if I'm asking him too many questions all at once, he's going to tune out, or if I'm not asking enough questions. So it's up to us to find how to work with each individual horse so that we can do just enough to keep them wanting to be engaged with us. Okay, so now let's go off in the other direction. So, good boy. And again. So I'm going to keep asking here until I get a bit of a step to the side rather than just a back up. Good boy. There we go. We'll try and dribble back down this way so we're not going into the rain at the end of the arena. And afterwards, he wants to kind of be on top of me when I'm leading him. So we'll do a bit of a leading session as well, and getting him just respecting my space a little bit more, and not needing to be right on top of me. Good boy. There we go. So we're starting to see him become more and more responsive rather than reactive. Because remember that the reactive state is what they do when they're, don't know what the word is I'm looking for here. We'll leave that and come back to it. Good boy. And so what I want to do is, if he makes a mistake and comes to a stop, I'm going to let him and then I will correct him. Because if I see while he's out there that he's going to stop, then and I start nagging at him to keep on going, pretty quickly he's going to tune me out, because I'm making the walk not a nice place to be. I'm putting pressure on him in the walk. But I want to make, because I want him to be walking, and if he's thinking about stopping, then I want to make the stop the uncomfortable place to be and the walk the easy place to be. So while he's in walk, I'm going to take the pressure off him, leave him alone, and if he tries to halt, then let him halt and then put pressure on him. So that becomes the undesirable place to be. But just then he wanted to come into my space, so I just used the whip a little bit there to put some pressure to say, stay out of my bubble. Okay, so let's come to a stop, step and slide, lift up to the wither. Good boy. And then I'm going to back him up. Just because he has that habit of wanting to be in my space, I'm going to create a habit with him that he has to stay out of there. And eventually I'll get to the point where he isn't wanting to come in on top of me and into my space, and I'll find that he'll stay out there, or he might even take a couple of steps back himself if he gets in too close. Good boy. Good man. Okay, so step and slide, lifting up, rolling those hindquarters away. Good man. And so why I like to lift my hand up is because it allows freedom through that shoulder. I'm keeping everything in upwards movement, up and light. If I was to take a real hold on his head and pull downwards, then it creates tension, and I'm creating a resistance as well. So that's when we start to see horses that do the disengaged, as it's called in the horsemanship world, but they end up on the forehand and jamming that inside shoulder up and pivoting it on the ground when it's done incorrectly. So I've found that just by lifting my hand up creates that freedom of movement through the body, and he can softly get that flexion through his pole, his jaw, his neck, and keep that shoulder free to come on around. Good boy. And let's go again. And then we might even go back to doing some transition changes. Some changes of direction. Good boy. Now that I've got him understanding the flag a little bit more and my cues, then hopefully we'll see that he doesn't react so much and that he responds to the question rather than throwing legs around and feeling like he has to protect himself. Good boy, that's so much better. Yeah, there we go. So he's starting to feel me take a hold of that lead rope, even though I'm not pulling on his head, and that can be a big mistake as well. People feel like they need to really pull on the horse's head to get them to change direction or change a movement, but that just creates resistance and tightness. So my goal is to see how little I can do to get them to do what I'm asking. So that can be even just gently sliding my hand up that rope and changing the angle of it. And we know that horses are so sensitive and they feel that, but we have to be aware of it and give them that option to take that and then escalate the pressure if need be. So what I do is I pop my flag into my leading hand. With my current driving hand, I'm going to reach under, take a gentle hold, and then the flag is just, it's my last resource, I guess, to be able to change direction if he doesn't hear the subtle cue that I've offered up first. Good boy. Good man. So now we've got a go, we've got a stop, we've got a simple change of direction. Then we can start to build on an advanced change of direction. So what I'm going to do is step in a little bit closer, and I'm just going to ask those hindquarters to step around. Good boy. And what I'm doing is I'm getting him to bend right the way through his body. So we're just working towards more relaxation, more softness. Good boy. And what I'll do as we work on things is I'm just kind of saying, like, his defense is his shoulders, so he really likes to push his shoulders in towards me, but I don't want to get after him and shoo them out of my space just at the moment. I'm going to just gradually build his trust and create this conversation with him. I've got to build rapport, because if I go straight in there and really get after him, then why should he trust me? So I'm observing that and I'm aware of it. If it became dangerous, then I'm going to push him out of my space. But for now, I'm going to work on that as I work through our exercises and getting him to a place where he doesn't feel that he needs to barge his shoulders into me to protect himself. So again, let's do this advanced change of direction, lifting my hand up to his withers and just stepping in there. So I want to see that he stays forward in his forelegs, that he's bending and softening right the way through his body. And then I'm going to let him change over. Good boy. That's a one. And again. So we can see he is a little bit tight in his shoulders, and that's where he's wanting to get stuck all the time, and he finds it a little bit difficult stepping them over here. Good boy. But I'll probably find that once I've done the acceptance work with him, he's going to find that a lot easier, because he won't be holding on to that tension in there because of worry. Good boy. What a good man. Hey.